Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and I love that last song so much. Genuinely love that song. I think I'm going to make it the theme song for Sundays, where I maybe try to be a little bit sweeter. Because this is Salty Saturday, where we don't have to be mature, we don't have to be constructive, we don't have to do anything except blow off steam and be salty about the goings-on of the world. It is, thus far, one of my favorite things to do all week. Delighted to have y'all here today. I'm going to be real with you. I want to do over on yesterday's news. Because this was absolutely made for Salty Saturday. Folks, according to sources familiar with the matter, by which I mean the man himself, Donald Trump is going to be arrested on Tuesday. Oh, here's CNN talking about it.
Major new developments involving former President Donald J. Trump. Trump saying today he expects to be arrested on Tuesday and is calling for protests. He made the announcement today on his social media post, lashing out at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has invited him to testify before a grand jury. The arrest would be part of their investigation into alleged hush money payments to Stormy Daniels during.
They're going to read it, I'm sure. I want to read it. Wait. Page 2, Jesus Christ. Now illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan District Attorney's Office, all caps. Oh, I can't get enough. And whose leader is funded by George Soros, Jesus Christ, indicate that with no crime being able to be proven, and based on an old and fully debunked by numerous other prosecutors fairy tale, the far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the United States of America. Wait, this is a run-on sentence. Former president of the United States of America, finally admitting former, will be arrested on Tuesday of next week. Protest, take our nation back. Oh, there's all kinds of dangerous stuff to warn about, be ready for, but let's just enjoy this for a minute more.
During the 2016 election. Again, if there is an arrest, that's according to Trump. Trump also called for protests over his pending arrest to, quote, take our nation back. This development comes as sources.
Oh, I just got to look at that face again. You give her
called
that
for
lower
protests
third.
over his pending arrest to.
Good God, look at that. That is, you could not have a better picture for what that man appears to be feeling.
Quote, take our nation back. This development comes as sources tell CNN that law enforcement agencies in New York are also now preparing for the possible indictment of Trump. CNN's Polo Sandoval is outside the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse for us, and we can also begin with CNN senior crime and justice reporter Caitlin Pallant. So, Caitlin, to you first in Washington, what more do we know about this possible arrest that the former president is announcing on his social media post?
Well, Fred, when and what is going to be charged, if it is charged, we don't have the answer to that yet, and neither does Donald Trump. At this point in time, his team, through a spokesman, has made very clear that there has been no notification.
This is apropos of nothing. That lady looks so much like every roommate you've ever had in like every college roommate you ever had, right? I just feel like she has the most relatable look about her.
Made to him or his lawyers that he is going to be indicted or when that indictment is going to happen. However, Trump is very aware of the politics of this and the bluster and the bully pulpit that he has. And so he is agitating for his team to try and get his base riled up. He did say in that post about protests, asking his supporters to.
I don't know why she's putting that extra layer. Maybe he is also agitating for his team to do things. But the point is, he directly, in what appears to be January 6th 2.0, He's directly requesting that his base act foolishly. And remember, the whole point, and by the way, it appears to be, it's increasingly apparent that prosecutors are looking at this like a RICO case. When I say prosecutors, I mean all of them. All of them appear to be looking at this like a RICO case. The important thing to understand is that you cannot just take things at their literal face value meaning with this guy. Because multiple people have said, no, he never directly told me to do something, but he made it obvious what he wanted. It's the exact same thing here. Let me get rid of that blue transparent box. The far and away leading it, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Take our nation back, he says. Protest, take our nation back. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Didn't say no. Didn't disavow. That's who this guy is. And that's also why he's got to go. Fella's got to be locked up. That's simple. Keep it going, roommate.
Protest in some way. He also is sending a message to the New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg. And if we step back for a second, Fred, the reason that there is this expectation of Donald Trump that he will be indicted in New York by the DA is that the long investigation into the Trump Organization and payments made to Stormy Daniels for hushing her about an alleged affair she says that she had with the former president. Those investigation, that is nearing the end. We know that because there was an invitation to Trump himself to come into the grand jury and testify. He declined to do that. We do understand through our reporting this morning that another witness is expected to testify before the grand jury on Monday, so it does not appear they've returned an indictment at this point that would cause Trump to come in and turn himself over that quickly. However, it does appear we are in the end stage of this, and the grand jury will be reviewing the evidence and at some point, very likely, voting on whether the former president of the United States should be indicted. Fred?
All right. Thanks so much, Caitlin. Now let's.
Respect to the brother standing out there in the freaking cold, getting ready to do his hit. I am doing this from just a chilly space. And I already am trying to think of a way I can make it a gimmick to wear an actual jacket during the stream. I might just do it anyway.
Go to Polo Sandoval outside the Manhattan courthouse. So, Polo, what can you tell us about any preparations by law enforcement agencies that might be taking place, especially after the former president will make that announcement via post?
Yeah, Fred, still with many questions about the when. They certainly don't want any questions about the how they would handle all of this. And that's why you have these conversations that, according to our colleague John Miller, are ongoing among local, state, and federal law enforcement officials that are in close contact with also officials at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The crux of the conversations there, exactly how to navigate this scenario with a potential indictment, and then also the choreography that would come involved with potential charges being filed against the former president. And that's why these conversations have been happening. And in this post-January 6th world, you better believe that courthouse security is one of the big parts of the conversations that are happening right now, with law enforcement officials privy to the discussion saying that they are preparing for potential demonstrations for pro-Trump demonstrators to come together here in Lower Manhattan, and the potential of any possible clashing with anti-Trump demonstrators. And so this is certainly something that is top of mind behind the scenes as they prepare for the coming days. And certainly also the U.S. Secret Service having their separate discussions about how it would work in terms of getting the former president to Manhattan, getting processed, getting potentially booked here when and if that indictment is announced. And this is a routine, Fred, that we should mention is certainly not unusual for the New York state court system here, but it's certainly, because of the complexities that come with this, it certainly would rise to the level of being
Not look. He didn't offer anything that we didn't really hear yesterday to some degree, but just underlining. With other presidents, were this the case, we wouldn't have these concerns. Like the same set of facts, a payment, yada yada yada. We just wouldn't have these concerns. Nobody would be like, well, they're not sure how they're gonna get him in the cell, and still no, like this could be wrapped up without. My only point is that like you wouldn't have to worry about the guy saying like, I'm in this cell, somebody break me out. You wouldn't have to worry about him starting in prison. It's just, it's probably good that we have a procedure on the books after this for how to arrest a president in a country where anybody is subject to the law. It's good to have a procedure in place. And it's very funny to me that future presidents that we arrest, and by the way, I hope we don't have a president that breaks the law again. But since we've had a bunch of presidents that broke the law, I hope that the next time it inevitably happens, we can look at this and arrest them again. I don't care if they're a Democrat. I don't care if they're Republican. If you break the law, you get arrested. That's that. And if it's an unjust law, then you allow yourself to get arrested and you change the law through legal means. That's it. But I'm glad that we are establishing now these procedures. We're figuring this out. And the next time we're going to be like, all right, hit him with the Trump. Throw his ass in the president's cell. You, Mr. President. You're getting the presidential suite in prison.
Unprecedented as we prepare for the coming days, Fred.
Right, and that involving a former president. Paula Sandoval, Caitlin Polentz, thanks so much. We'll check back with you throughout the afternoon. Let's talk more about this right now with Elliot Williams. He is a former federal prosecutor and a CNN legal analyst. Elliot, good to see you. So what do you make of the former president who would say this via his social media post? Do you believe that he has any particular intel that says he might be arrested on Tuesday?
Well, let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, right, Fred? Look, the truth is he might have received heads up from law enforcement that he had a surrender date as of whatever, whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and that he had to turn himself into law enforcement by then or face an arrest, right? Now that's, if this were all working normally and accurately, of course, that would be how prosecutors and law enforcement in New York would handle it. Or he's just making it up based on things that he read in the newspaper, and there's no way to know either of those things. But
for the record, I'm dry watching this clip. I just saw the headline. I've seen other things like this. Frankly, I just wanted to get some CNN in while they're still a respectable organization. Yeah, just want to underline what I said before. If this was another president who had done a similar thing, it would literally just be that. There would be a discreet phone call from a friend on behalf of, so probably from a friend in the Justice Department who would say, hey, look, I got to break the news to you, pal. You got to turn yourself in by this date. It'd probably be good if you were discreet. But as I said yesterday, I never even considered that Trump would do anything but kick and scream and make it incredibly public. Has no sense of how to handle himself discreetly. In other words, those of us in the upper class know how to do our scumbaggery with a bit of class. When you go to the whorehouse, you don't put up a post saying, go to the whorehouse. Oh, Christ. I got arrested down at the whorehouse. Can you believe that? No. Say you're going to the art gallery or whatever the hell fancy people do. I don't know.
To be clear, this is to Polo's point, there's nothing novel about a defendant getting a call from law enforcement prior to being asked to turn himself or herself in.
Okay, so then on that first point then, when you say, there may be a surrender date, and then it might say you face arrest, if you don't comply. So what is usually the gap between that? If he did receive a, surrender date notice of a Tuesday, if he didn't comply right away, then would that mean a matter of hours within the same day days?
Within a day. I mean, I'm sorry about that. It's within a day. It would be your surrender date's Tuesday. We can arrest you starting maybe it lists a time, 5 p.m. and at 5:01 p.m. you're subject to arrest. Now they may reach out to your attorney or they may try to get you to come in, but no, you are subject to being arrested by, this would be NYPD cops or whomever else as soon as that surrender moment or date passes.
Okay, so any potential indictment, or arrest would stem from the probe of Trump's alleged hush money payment to former adult film star Stormy Daniels. Are we talking about a misdemeanor or felony?
It could be either. Under New York state law, there is I'm admitted to practice in New York. There's a misdemeanor for business record violations. He could be charged with that. If in fact those business record lying or misrepresenting on business records was in furtherance of committing a crime, which here might be campaign finance or campaign violations, then it bumps up to a felony with a 4-year maximum prison sentence. So, but it's just hard to know. And this is to Caitlin Polance's point earlier in the segment. We don't really know, other than what's sort of leaked out, what the former president might be being investigated for right now.
All right.
I mean, it's hard to get much funnier. It is hard to get much more satisfying. And it is rare that we actually get catharsis like this in the United States of America. Oh, salty Saturday. Nothing we even have to do about it, folks. But I am going to read some comments. Foxy Dragon says, can we point and laugh at Trump? Oh, yeah, 100%. That is something we can do, and that is highly recommended. Andrew Woznicki says, I really hope we get to see the actual arrest. Right? Ooh. Yes, sir. Yeah, I hope as well. Foxy Dragon says, fortunately, most of the people who would protest are already in jail for the insurrection. Good point. The most diehard Trump folks tend to get taken out of the picture for the very reason that the anti-Trump folks are anti-Trump. Because he asks his folks to do illegal stuff. He asks his folks to do unhealthy stuff, like unsafe stuff. There's a lot of people that would have been at January 6th that didn't get there because they listened to him during the pandemic. That actually kind of sucks, man. It sucks that that's the reason. Foxy Dragon says, wonder if Trump has any second thoughts about attacking DeSantis. Oh, yeah. I think both he and DeSantis are extraordinarily aware of the fact that they are intertwined in terms of who's got authority over who. DeSantis literally is in a Pence situation with Trump right now. Got a clip you think we should watch. Post it in the comments. I will occasionally remember things I said I swore I would remember to do. Let's keep it going, though. More on Trump getting arrested. We're not just going to stop there. Come on. Here's another dry watch. It's Rachel Maddow's show, although I didn't see my girl herself there. So let's see who this was. But they are talking about Trump looking to raise the civic cost, as they phrase it, of a potential indictment. I think that's going to be increasingly relevant as we talk about what Trump's behavior, what his criminality, what the MAGA movement is actually like in terms of consequences and how it gets ugly. Let's have a look.
Joining me now by phone is my colleague Rachel Maddow, host of the Rachel Maddow Show here.
Oh, shoot.
On
Okay, she is
MSNBC.
there.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us this Saturday morning. What do you make of Trump's latest post? He's made a lot of claims and called for his supporters to protest other things in the past, but is there something different about this one?
Jonathan, thanks for having me. I'm sorry I couldn't get in to the studio in time. I wasn't expecting this on Saturday morning. I think that we have to be measured in our response to this, just because we don't, as you so rightfully pointed out, we don't have any indication that Trump is responding to some, communication from the DA's office or some act within the criminal justice system that we the public don't have access to. It kind of seems like he's just responding to NBC News reporting yesterday that law enforcement agencies are preparing for the possibility that he might be indicted. He's just kind of yelling at the TV. So I think it is possible to overinterpret what's going on here. Mm-hmm. But that reporting from NBC is real, and the prospect that Trump might be indicted is real. And so with these posts, we know what his response to that will be. We don't know what his response will be in the courtroom. I don't think we've had a clear view of what his legal defense is going to be, but his overall defense is going to be to try to raise the civic cost of indicting him. He is trying to bring intimidation and pressure to bear against the prosecutors who are considering right now whether to indict him. And he's hoping to create fear that there'll be another January 6th type event, or his followers will go shoot up another FBI office, or something else that he could cause to happen by asking his followers to go into the streets in his defense.
Yeah, it's the RICO stuff we were talking about earlier. He doesn't need to say something literally in order for the message to be clear. And he's talking to a group of folks that, let's be honest, have been trained by the Republican establishment to speak this language. Think about all the times they were like, do you really want to see thugs in your streets? Wink. George Soros funded. Wink. Globalist. Wink. You even saw it with neo-Nazis talking about Trump. That scumbag that got punched in the face when it made my whole day, he got punched in the face during that interview. By the way, there's nothing morally... Morally, it's never okay to punch somebody. Yet, there is nothing... It's a famous philosophical conundrum, because at the same time, there's nothing morally wrong with punching a Nazi. A fun fact. In your old pal Jake's book of ethics, simultaneously, it's never morally okay to punch somebody, yet there's nothing wrong with punching a Nazi. Anyway, even that guy, whose name, thank Christ, I can't even remember, said that they give him a pass when he says things that are like, I don't hate Jews, because they know that he has to say that, because his real opinions, their real opinions, are unacceptable. Well, it's not far to go from socially unacceptable opinions to legally unacceptable opinions. Or not even opinions, statements. Legally unacceptable statements. So they already speak this language of I'm saying one thing, but you know what I really mean. So when he goes out there and says, take our nation back, that is meant to mean to the people who would concern us to be getting messages from this guy exactly what you're concerned that it might mean. It's supposed to be exactly that.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I love.
But I have to say, on behalf of both Rachel Maddow and myself, I can't know that. This is just Salty Saturday. I'm just being salty. I don't have a crystal ball that lets me actually see what this what that dingbat thinks. There's an equal chance that he's just thinking Cheetos, hamburger Melania, drugs, Stormy. Who knows?
That phrasing, raise the civic cost of indicting him. And I'm just wondering, it's hard not to recall January 6th when you read a post like the one he put out this morning. And I want you to talk further. How concerned are you, and should people be concerned that Trump's supporters will see this as a call to action?
Well, he's trying to make it that. I mean, one of the things that I've been sort of poking around, thinking about, and trying to do some research on this week is trying to quantify the number of public officials and former public officials who get arrested and indicted for stuff. And it's taken me a few days, and I've been poking around at it for a while because it's essentially an infinite number. There are so many state senators, big city mayors, governors, members of Congress, former members of Congress, statewide elected officials of other kinds who get arrested and indicted and thrown out of office and occasionally jailed. It just happens all the time. And it's not the end of the world. It's not even the political end of the world for some of those figures.
Wasn't there a guy that literally, I think this was recent, like he literally got arrested and was serving time and ran for office and won? You know what? I might have heard about this from Rachel Maddow. She might be leading to this. Let's find out.
I was looking back at Huey Long, who I think is one of the historical figures we've got in this country who's most analogous to Trump in terms of the effect that he has on his supporters. And Huey Long, one of his great laugh lines, one of his great applause lines at the sort of apex of his political career when he was getting ready to challenge FDR in 1936 before he was assassinated and then wasn't able to do it. One of Huey Long's great laugh lines was about how many times he had escaped indictment, how they'd tried to impeach him and they'd try to indict him, and it just made him stronger and stronger and stronger. Getting arrested, getting indicted, even going to jail isn't the end of the line. It isn't the end of the world, but Trump is trying to make it that. He's trying to make it so that there is a threat of uncontrollable political violence in this country that would be triggered by any act of the legal system against him. It's his effort. There's nothing intrinsic about him getting in trouble as a potentially public corrupt figure that should cause violence. But he's trying to make sure that it does. And the question is whether his followers do it.
I don't think that they're going to this time around. I hope not. I think we should prepare regardless, just in case. But there's a couple of differences here. Number one, there's not a specific place. We're seeing the advantage of the fact that really his diehard fans are a small percentage of the country, comparatively. There's way too many for it to be acceptable. But in January 6th, he said, come to this specific location at this specific time, and here is months to plan. And Charlie Kirk was literally arranging for buses to take people out there. By the way, Charlie Kirk. This is different in that there's not the time to prepare. There's not the time for his machine to bus folks out. There's also the fact that the date itself is not clear. And there's the fact that Fox News ain't what it was. Newsmax ain't what it was. OAN ain't what it was. The taste for this is going away because what he accidentally did was make people genuinely interested in politics and how it works. But when people see how it works, how it actually functions, when they're truly paying attention to who did what, suddenly it becomes crystal clear that nothing Republicans do help people. Not a damn thing. Look at the train derailment. Think about what the coverage of that would have been like 15, 20 years ago versus now. When Republicans were saying, of course, way to go, Biden. Suddenly, talking to a politically interested audience, people were able to point out and use the language of politics and say, like, or rather, literally of policy, not politics, but actual policy. They were able to say, no, this is deregulation. We can point directly to this. In fact, left of Biden is the way to go here, not right of Biden. Biden should have sided with the protesting workers for Norfolk Southern, but he didn't. But don't get it twisted. This was a Trump administration call. The lack of regulation that they were insisting, that they were protesting for. That's on Trump. Look at the SVB collapse. Once again, they're like, oh, it's woke policy. But the people who are genuinely interested in politics now, a lot of them due to Donald Trump, whether they hate him or love him. They are able to look at that and have somebody say, no, wait a minute, no, this is a Dodd-Frank rollback. Remember when we said on the left that big banks should be regulated like huge banks should? Well, here's that clip from, 2018, of Trump saying, we're now going to be irresponsible dicks, roll back regulations on bankers. It's not going to be the same in terms of the effect. That doesn't mean, though, that nobody's going to do anything wacky. That's entirely possible. There's a reason there's a phrase, lone wolf terrorist. Just keep your head on a swivel. But I don't think it's going to have, just because of the logistics and the environment that we're in now, I don't think it is as likely that we are going to see January 6th too.
And, to that point, you anticipated the next question I was going to ask you. Given this long history of public officials up and down the roster being arrested, and some of them viewing it as a good thing, using the number of times they've been indicted as a punchline in campaign speeches, is this good for Trump politically? Because he is right now a declared candidate for president.
Yes. I mean, I think that he's banking on it being something that helps him, but he is playing with a fire that he doesn't know how to contain and that nobody knows how to contain, right? I mean, I think it is a little unnerving that his first political campaign appearance for his 2024 run is in Waco, right? We're at the 30th anniversary of the Waco standoff, right? If you're talking about trying to engender militant consciousness among Americans about the need to fight the federal government with violence, well, Waco's a nice place to try to do that from. That's a nice resonant place to try to do that from. I mean, him being indicted on a charge related to campaign finance, tax and business fraud, again, doesn't have to be the end of the world for him and could potentially be a positive for him. But if he's asking for a militant, racially tinged, violent response from his followers, that's something that won't be good for him. January 6th is not good for Trump's political legacy, for all the other things that it is, for all the other things it means for our country. It didn't make him more electable for coming back as another term as president. And so he's trying to start something that I don't think he can take responsibility for how it will finish. And so I just don't think it's wise.
He absolutely can be held responsible for how it finishes, though. Because if you know you can't take responsibility for something, but you start it anyway, don't mean you weren't responsible.
Is on his part, just a pure political strategy for him to be calling for what he's calling for.
Rachel, let me get you on one more thing. Just yesterday, YouTube reinstated Donald Trump's account, which means he's now back on all major social media platforms, including Twitter and Facebook. Granted, this post was on his own social media platform, but should those companies regret the move to reinstate him and giving him access to millions of Americans?
I don't have a whole pitch for this. I don't have a what you should do plan for it. But I've been thinking about this more and more lately, and now it comes up here. I genuinely believe that we should have a government run and funded search engine, social media platform, literally, video hosting service, a government version of everything. And hear me out here. It shouldn't be kicking off the neo-Nazis and all that, yada, yada, yada. And by the way, because of that, it will be worse. It'll be worse than YouTube. It'll be worse than Twitter or whatever. But the idea that there would literally be a free speech platform, or in essence, a government center for securely holding your data somewhere, I think we have to have it. Think about this. If YouTube were suddenly to change its logo to a swastika, I would no longer be cool with putting my content up on there, right? I hate when people say right rhetorically, sorry. I would no longer, this is just a fact, be confident, cool with putting my content on there. But what would be the alternative? Vimeo, I guess, Twitch, okay. Let's say they all decide they're going to jump on this new trend, this swastika trend. My point, I'm giving a comical, ridiculous example, but my point is that literally, just like there is such a thing as a place that makes standard peanut butter. This is true for the government. There is a place that makes standard peanut butter so that we have an idea of what standard is. There should be a place that lets you hold your data somewhere in a standard way. Just like we have banks backed up, the depositors' money is backed up to $250,000. It's the same thing with your data. Data is truly a currency now. And whether that data is a collection of your opinions, which is what social media would be, or if it's just a bunch of charts you made, whatever. Government storage of that is something that we should have. And it is something where, by the way, it can exist along with a capitalist system of that. There can be separate businesses. A place like YouTube would refine and say, well, you can't have the neo-Nazis and you can't have the yada, yada, yada. But right now, the reason we have this conflict at all is because, truly, there's no alternative for people to go to. Just thoughts.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I think those companies are in a bit of a crisis of conscience right now.
And let me know what you think also.
In terms of what their business plan is and how much they want to benefit from undermining the democracy that makes it possible for them to thrive as companies. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think companies like Facebook, Meta, and Google and YouTube, mm-hmm. they need to figure out whether or not they're going to let a nihilist like Elon Musk set the tone in terms of what counts as corporate responsibility for something that really does have the possibility to unlace our democracy in a way that's irreversible, or whether they have a sense of self as companies and a sense of responsibility for who they are and what it takes, what kind of legal environment they require in which to operate. And I'm hoping that there'll be a reckoning on their own terms and they won't be forced to act like they were after January 6th.
Mercy me. Let's hold up while we switch that back. There we go. Beautiful. And all right. So I do think I'm all for Lawrence St. Laurent, a government-centered social network like a utility. What about the rest of the world? Maybe a transitional thing funded by NGO, or the UN, by an NGO or the UN, a non-government organization or the UN. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, so long as it is built off principles all parties involved agree with, and not the interests of the specific parties. This is why it's not yet a pitch. It's not refined yet, but the general idea being, yeah, there's a standard bland government version so that you are allowed to communicate freely or store your data freely. I don't think that is what we really want, says Foxy Dragon. There are some things that most of us don't want to be subjected to. True. Absolutely true. And I do think, I think we should take into consideration the fact that people won't want to be, like, if you're, let's just say you're a trans person, you're going to want to avoid the stuff that says, I hate trans people constantly. You should be able to avoid that stuff easily. It's a issue that is for well down the line. But let me take it in another direction for a second, just to consider this. When you search for something on Google now, the first results are ads. And very faintly, there's the word ad, letting you know that. There could easily be a search engine like Google that is run by the government. And the algorithms could be voted on by the public, or even a council of experts that are elected by the public. And that search engine could be funded by the public relatively cheaply. What you would get is not a bunch of corporations buying the top results when you search for something. What we have seen with most of these major internet companies that now provide services that we need. When I look for information, I need a search engine. Doesn't have to be Google, but I do need a search engine to comb through the internet. When we allow these to be entirely capitalist run, or rather capitalist motivated things, we are going to keep getting Facebooks and Twitters and yada, yada, yada that do stuff like this because they will have a profit motive. And I just think we should eliminate, not that we should eliminate them, not at all, because I still think what they make will overall be better than the government service, but they should have the baseline, I feel, needs to be established, generally speaking. Lawrence St. Laurent says, I like the idea of social network without the commercial incentive, ads, clickbait, etc. Yeah. And also, I guess here's what's most important to me about it. It has to not have the goal of being popular. There's the rub to it. So if we had like a council voting on algorithms or whatever, a board that we appoint or elect or whatever, boring details worked out. But we just simply make their goal clear. It's not to get the most people using the service that they possibly can. The goal is simply to provide an effective service so that if you find some corporation disagrees with what you have to say and kicks you off their platform, you're not, you can't say, now my freedom of speech has been taken away because we use this platform to communicate, and there is no alternative. Plenty of spray tan. Ha ha! Lola J. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-a. My, oh my, Trump forgot his toupee. Yes, I cannot wait. I can't wait to see Prison Trump. I hope he cuts the sleeves off his jumpsuit I hope they give him one of those vests because they're afraid that he's going to Epstein himself. This is way too dark. I can't wait for Prison Trump. No makeup, no toupee. It's going to be delightful. Uma's observation says, I've had the idea for a .gov type search engine for ages. Excellent. To be able to access data that is verified and trustworthy would be helpful. Yeah, I know some hold the recognized view that government is bad or .gov is bad. The Reaganized view. Well put. I think the key thing to remember is that it would not have the same purpose as these other things. It would literally just be like, the same reason I think we should have a ubiquitous Wi-Fi throughout the entire country. Like literally we just have satellites over a country that beam an okay internet signal to every inch of it. I think somebody with no money should be able to realistically do something like this, look for jobs on their phone, whatever. But of course, first and foremost, we have to deal with putting criminals in prison. To that end, Michael Cohen's attorney gave some insight into the case we're looking at. Let me be clear. Donald Trump appears to be in way more trouble with the New York case than I initially thought. Here's a professional lawyer man talking about it.
We begin the readout tonight with the man who assisted Individual One with a hush money payment to an adult film star in the waning days of the 2016 presidential campaign.
When it was ultimately determined, and this was days before the election, that Mr. Trump was going to pay the $130,000. In the office with me was Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization.
That freaking guy.
He acknowledged to Alan that he was going to pay the $130,000 and that Alan and I should go back to his office and figure out how to do it.
Trump's longtime personal attorney and fixer Michael Cohen testifying before the House Oversight Committee in 2019 about his role in orchestrating the scheme that ultimately sent him to prison. Well, now it could be Donald Trump's turn to face the music, as it appears increasingly likely that Trump will be indicted by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who's been investigating the case. If that happens, Cohen will likely be the key witness for the prosecution. And you can expect that Trump and his allies will escalate their attacks on Cohen and that it will get personal and ugly. Already, we've heard from many legal analysts, as well as from members of Team Trump, who call Cohen a flawed witness and say that relying on him as the linchpin of the case could prove highly problematic for the prosecution if it happens, as many believe that it will, as soon as next week. And joining me now for his first interview since Michael Cohen completed his grand jury testimony is Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis. It is good to see you.
Nice to be here, Joy, in person.
Yeah, in person. I know. It's a new thing. We're kind of in normal-ish world again. Let's go through this because the attacks on your client have been pretty vicious for now. I'm assuming they'll get worse. Donald Trump called him a rat multiple times. His lawyer, Joe Tacopina, attacked him and said he's a fraud, he's a liar, he's a convicted perjurer in Trump world and outside of the Trump world. That's sort of the preview to what we're going to see. But when people say that he would have a credibility problem in front of a jury, that he would be a liability to the prosecution, they're talking about him pleading guilty to crime. So I want to go through with you what those crimes are, because it begs the question, right? What did he plead guilty to? He pleaded guilty to tax evasion, making false statements to a federally insured bank, causing an unlawful corporate contribution, making an excessive campaign contribution, and making false statements to Congress. I want to go through them one by one. Let's talk about the tax evasion case. He pleaded guilty to it, so he did it.
So he pled guilty when he was coerced on a Friday afternoon. His lawyer told him that on Monday he would be indicted with his wife on this completely concocted and baseless tax claim, as well as all the other counts. And he wouldn't have an opportunity to meet with the prosecutor. So they gave him from a Friday afternoon to Monday to decide whether to plead guilty. So the guilty plea on that issue was coerced. And I can prove to you that there was no even slight evidence of a tax fraud
What's
claim.
the proof of that?
Well, let's start with the fact that H&R Block, we all know, is an expert on tax. 1 out of 150 million people in the last year that this was done by H&R Block are criminally prosecuted. Most people in the millions of dollars of not paying taxes are treated in civil. There was literally nothing that the prosecution presented as evidence of tax criminal fraud. If in $1.3 million is the amount of money, tens of millions of dollars have been settled civilly, is all that was alleged against Michael. And that was spread over 5 years and created 5 counts. So there was something about the prosecution case that was so concocted that had he gotten his day in court, it probably would have been dismissed before he ever had a trial.
Right. Let's go on to this question of this HELOC, that he took a
This
HELOC.
is the silliest one of all.
Okay, we're going to go into it. So this is him using a HELOC. For those who don't know, it's essentially use the equity in your own home to sort of borrow from you.
Just while he keeps explaining this, I just want to make it clear. What he is describing overall is using the government to intimidate and harass a witness. That's what he's talking about. I don't know if I have to, what do they call it? When you're eating something because you are admitting you're wrong. Eat crow, is that it? I think that's it. I got to eat a little crow. Sorry, crows. Here. I came down hard on Michael Cohen the other day. And I think I still stand by what I said, but I didn't make this clear. The fact that he used to work for Trump willingly does not change the fact that he was attacked by Trump, literally thrown back in prison by Trump, it appears, as a direct result of speaking out against him. And yet he spoke out against Trump anyway. I didn't give him the credit for that bravery. Credit given. He did do that. I still say, though, you're going to hear a bunch of negative things about Michael Cohen. A lot of them will be true. None of them will be relevant. And I just think Trump's going to start leaning into like, oh, well, he didn't complain when fill in the awful things they did together. Because that's Trump's style. But as this guy is explaining, what the government might be laying out in a court here is that the government was used illegally. That is a whole different crime than just lying about a payment. Using the government to obstruct justice is a whole new ballgame. And if they're and we know that, Jesus God, we have been talking about that in this community, the Wicked community and wider, for years. And I'm delighted that it sounds like they are actually building that case in court. Yeah, baby.
Yourself.
Very excited.
And he used that money to pay Stormy Daniels this $130,000.
This is why the Cook case of the Southern District, we were told by Jeffrey Berman, the U.S. attorney, that he got a phone call from Trump's attorney general interfering in the Cohen case. So there's something wrong here. When you take your own money, you draw down $130,000 at Donald Trump's instruction, which is what the Southern District published in a filing. He instructed Michael to pay that $130,000 to avoid the Stormy Daniels affair coming out, alleged affair, right before the election for political reasons. That's what the federal prosecutor said. Now they're saying $130,000 with $8 million of equity in his apartment. That's his money. And he drew down $130,000 because Trump didn't want to be involved or have any connection.
He wanted a separation from the transaction.
Is it possible that $130,000 with $8 million of equity behind it could possibly be a crime?
Now, they're claiming that the lie to the bank is about the valuation, about how much equity he really had.
Actually, they're not claiming that. They're claiming that he had written down a somewhat mistaken assessment of assets in another venue. But banks don't care about what you write down on a bank statement. If you've got equity and if you don't pay back your own money, they don't care either, but they've got the equity. It's a completely absurd and it would be dismissed had it ever gone to trial. But as I said, they said to him on a Friday afternoon through his lawyer, refused to meet with him, we're going to charge you with a 78-page or 80-page indictment on Monday morning, and we're going to indict your wife.
Let me just say that again. It's a Friday. Do you remember back in the day, I think maybe it was yesterday, where I was talking about what happens if your buddy gets arrested on a Friday? There's no Saturday, Sunday. You can't go talk to a judge. You can't go work it out. You just got to sit Friday evening. You just got to sit in jail until Monday when a judge will decide what to do with you. It sounds like they used the levers of the American justice system. Christ, let me take another whack at that. The levers of the American justice system to threaten and intimidate Michael Cohen. They said, all right, we're going to throw the book at you. We're doing it Monday unless right now you sign a piece of paper. And we're not just going to throw the book at you. We're going to throw it at your wife as well. We're going to come after you and your wife in 3 days if you don't sign a paper right now. That's what's going to happen. They weren't interested in what is true. They were interested in creating a fall guy. Saying, go take your licks. I'm salty about it. But I'm delighted that we're going to have this out, it looks like, in a court of law, where it should be hashed out.
So this has never been given full airing, and part of what I'd like to say about his credibility is, let's remember, Michael Cohen on July 2nd, 2018, decided to tell the truth. Since that day, he's been under oath before congressional committees, before the intelligence committees, before prosecutors. He went into a grand jury just recently under oath, has never once, not once, has anyone said there's a fact untrue about all that testimony. And he's been so vindicated, the Attorney General of New York depended on his testimony to bring a civil case of fraud against Donald Trump. So everything that you quoted, Mr. Tacopina, who I know from other venues, he uses adjectives and attack words. I know lawyers, when they use attack words and they don't use facts, it means they don't have facts. Not a single fact has undermined anything that Michael Cohen has said under oath, in contrast to Mr. Trump, who refuses to show up. And when he is under oath, he takes the Fifth Amendment.
There's another one that I think is people don't think.
Good God. When you have an educated person lay down a talking to like that, there's something so satisfying about it. Not an F-bomb was dropped, but he F'd him up. Good Lord. When you don't have facts, just devastating.
About enough. And this is the false statements to the U.S. Congress. Now, those were not about Stormy Daniels, right? Those were actually about a Trump Tower or Trump. Again, explain that.
Facts get in the way of rhetoric. A false statement to Congress is a serious crime. Number one, he was directed to make those false statements by Donald Trump.
And what were they about?
This is the absurdity of the assertion that it's a crime. So he was having conversations, negotiations about building Trump Tower in Moscow. Trump said to him, I don't want you to say that during the campaign. I want you to lie and say there are no discussions, even while there were discussions. So Michael said there were 3 discussions rather than 10. Now, let me repeat that. That's the false statement called a crime that will undermine his credibility with the jury. Trump tells him to lie, and he had 3, which is what he said, rather than 10, which is what happened. That's the crime. And it's done at the...
I cut him off too soon. Done at the instruction of Donald Trump. Don Trump instructed Cohen, Cohen says, to do a crime. That is, itself, a crime.
Instruction, and for the benefit of, not Michael Cohen, Donald Trump, every juror who's going to be sitting in the jury box is going to ask the question, did Donald Trump pay the money to hush up Stormy Daniels because right before the election, he was worried about the effect on the electorate if that came out? That's the only question a jury is going to be deciding. And by the way, as much as I say Michael Cohen can be trusted and is credible based on this record I just laid out for you, Michael Cohen isn't needed in this case.
Yeah, I really hope that's not the only question that the jury will be deciding. Maybe it will be. Maybe it really is just going to be about those payments. But when he says that's the only question the jury will be deciding, I hope he means in regards to this specific point. Because I really hope that that Alvin Bragg is looking at this over in Manhattan as what it genuinely was, which was an abuse of his power to attack somebody who would be within the jurisdiction of Alvin Bragg to seek justice for. Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, again, you know my thoughts, not a good person, a great presenter, and I recommend his show, but not necessarily a good person, and he doesn't have to be. He didn't deserve to get treated the way he got treated. He didn't deserve to be falsely imprisoned. Lord knows I have done streams where I'm talking about black folks who have been in prison for 20 years over a robbery that it turns out they didn't even do. I'm not doing that because they are black, and I'm like, oh no, a black guy had a bad thing happen to him. I better be angry about it. No, it's the fault. It's the abuse of our system that concerns me. The fact that it's a racist abuse of our system, because it tends to happen way more often to people of a certain color, that's also infuriating. But it doesn't, I don't have to like the person personally, nor do you have to like the person personally to be pissed off that they got treated poorly. Or rather, not even poorly, unfairly. Michael Cohen got treated unfairly. And again, I want to stress, I love his show. I watch it, every day, basically. At least one thing from Michael Cohen every day. He's a great presenter. He's got a great second career, it looks like, bizarrely, on the old bread tube. But maybe not that far, but certainly on YouTube. But I hope that what he just said really is just about that one point, because I want Donald Trump to have the entirety of the book thrown at him for the things he did do.
All of these pundits and pontificators and lawyers who are speaking on TV, especially another rival network, have no clue what the evidence is in this case. I'm in the room. I know what the evidence is. They don't. So they're speculating, and they have no idea that this case is surrounded by documents, evidence, and facts. I think this case is extremely strong. I hear people say it's a weak case. It's because they have no clue, no facts. They're just speculating.
You mentioned Mr. Berman, and you did mention that he has this chapter in his book where he talks about getting a call from William Barr, who we do know was acting as a fixer for Donald Trump and as Attorney General at the same time, lied about the Mueller report, et cetera. But what you said sounds like you're alleging some intimidation tactics against Mr. Berman and maybe against Mr. Cohen as well.
Well, no question that Mr. Berman wrote that in a book. He waited a little long to talk about what was a basically criminal obstruction of justice, even if the Attorney General does it when he calls a U.S. attorney and tries to interfere in a case. And something was amiss in the prosecutors not allowing Michael Cohen to come in and talk. Even on the Friday before the Monday they threatened to indict him, I know as a lawyer we called after and said, can we come in and present you with new evidence on Mr. Trump? And the criminal lawyer that I was working with said the first time in his career the Southern District prosecutor said, no, we don't want your information, and they dropped everything, and the only prosecutor who went to jail in the whole Trump organization was Michael Cohen. Jeffrey Berman gave us the answer. There was pressure from Washington, and that call from the Attorney General There were other involvements from Washington that interfered in the administration of justice. I would love to see the Inspector General of the Justice Department investigate what happened in that time period when Trump was interfering and targeting Michael Cohen.
And he was then, he was released from jail due to COVID, and then was put.
I'm gonna have that guy finish what he was saying again, because Joy Reid asks such good. Joy Reid in 2023 is like in my top, I'm going to say top 5 TV presenters. She might even be in my top 3 TV presenters. No cap. This was not true even 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe she changed, maybe I did, but I want to let her be uninterrupted with my mug. But I do want him to say that last part again, because that's what has me so freaking excited. Here it is.
Your information, and they dropped everything, and the only person prosecuted who went to jail in the whole Trump organization was Michael Cohen.
The only person who went to jail was Michael Cohen. He's also the only one who spoke out against Trump.
Jeffrey Berman gave us the answer. There was pressure from Washington, and that call from the Attorney General. There were other involvements from Washington that interfered in the administration of justice. I would love to see the inspector.
Interfered with the administration of justice. You might say obstructed justice. Do you remember 56 for 45? When I went through all of the crimes we were aware of that Trump did, I came on another stream and said I didn't even consider the obstruction of justice in regards to Michael Cohen. I guess I should have considered that. Because that looks like the one they might gig him on.
General of the Justice Department investigate what happened in that time period when Trump was interfering and targeting Michael Cohen.
And he was then, he was released from jail due to COVID, and then was put back in, or at least there was a threat to reincarcerate him. What was that behind that?
Great that I can get into this. So this is now a federal judge who was told by the Justice Department.
I'm telling you, Joy Reid with a great question.
By the same prosecutors that coerced him into these guilty pleas, filed papers and said, we're sending him back to prison because he refused to sign a paper, but it had nothing to do with the fact that he was writing a book about Trump. The judge heard the evidence, and the judge said what was told to me by the federal government prosecutors was not true. Now, it's a nice way of saying lying. He was sent back to prison out of vengeance to force him to sign a paper that he wouldn't write a book, and the judge ordered him out of prison. People in the Southern District of New York and the Bureau of Prisons had to have been embarrassed, and Mr. Berman tells us why that happened. It had to come from somebody in Washington.
Wild times, man. So that is, in my opinion, pretty thorough summary of the most historic indictment that appears to be coming Tuesday that has ever been. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Hey, the anti-corporatists. Meh, Joy Reid will come for the progressives any chance she has. Yeah. And I think the main issue was that in 2018, 2017, when I last watched her a lot, I was getting a lot of that. These days, there's plenty of red meat on the far right, and so she's been going that away. Yeah, I hope she changes her tune on progressives. I don't think she will, but for now, I'm loving her. Joy Reid of early 2023 is fantastic. Mehdi Hassan, though, you want to know who my number 1 and number 2 are? Oh, shoot. Joy Reid's number 4, I think. Number 1, Mehdi Hassan. Number 2, Ali Velshi. Number 3, Chris Hayes. There, whole list done. Wireless Mike says Cohen paid his debt to society. He's trying to do the right thing now, and that matters. There is such a thing as redemption. I don't like him, but I respect his attempt to better himself. Yeah, agreed. And that's why I do recommend his show. Again, there's separating, my feelings about a person personally are totally irrelevant. from whether or not I recommend their content. And I agree. There is such a thing as paying your debt. The anti-corporatist says, great project, by the way, what you can do. Thank you so much. Have a good night, Foxy Dragon. Hope to see you again in the future. Says Wireless Mike. See you, Foxy Dragon, who says, as much as I want to stay longer, I have to go. I have little one bouncing off the walls at his playroom calling for me. Well, you have a great night, Foxy Dragon. Thank you for swinging on by. And, I hope to see you next time. Catherine Wolf, good to see you. Dawned on Me says, I'm not a fan of Michael Cohen either, but I like him better when Trump, but I might like him better when Trump gets found guilty. 100% agreed. Dawned on Me also says it's going to be a felony charge because Bragg can prove intent. Ooh, man, I hope you are right. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy, oh, boy. The anti-corporatist, Sonia Barris says Mehdi Hassan rocks. Wholeheartedly agreed. Anti-corporatist says same 1 through 3 here. Lawrence St. Laurent says MSNBC has improved. Still, I'm pissed they don't have Tiffany Cross and Zerlina Maxwell. Yeah, what happened to Zerlina Maxwell? Good point. The anti-corporatist says, Ben Meiselas clearly hates it when Michael Cohen calls him Bagel Ben, LMAO. And Lauren St. Laurent says, agreed on Mehdi Hassan. Check Intelligence Squared for some unleashed Mehdi Hassan. I love those recommendations. Yeah, absolutely, I will. So, we've been pushing for a while here to drive a wedge between Fox viewers and Fox for obvious reasons. But in case you're a former Fox viewer or even current Fox viewer who's got the balls to watch this, nonetheless on this channel, but nonetheless on Salty Saturday, where we're leaning in to being non-productive. First of all, I congratulate your bravery. I genuinely respect that kind of attitude. Second of all, the reason why is not because I'm worried you'll find out the truth about how things work. No. The reason why is because A, Fox lies, and B, those lies are harmful. When a doctor, or not a doctor, when a homeopath recommends that you take a bunch of herbal supplements for a disorder, and you take those supplements and the supplements don't actually do anything, I view that. You may disagree, whatever. I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, I view that as a lie that doesn't really hurt anybody. Okay, you lose $12, but you get that wonderful, what do you call it, thing where you heal because you're not worried about it. What the hell is it? Placebo effect. There it is. You get that wonderful placebo effect. Fox lies are like the people that said cigarettes aren't bad for you. That's a Fox lie. And that's why we're trying to drive that wedge simply by telling the truth strategically about Fox. If we were to tell the whole truth, which is, here's Roger Ailes saying this, here's their coverage of the Iraq war in the beginning, here's their coverage of the yada, 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 you're going to shut your brain off. But lately we've had something which has allowed us, and I say us being everybody who doesn't watch Fox, has allowed us to talk pretty concisely about the problem with Fox. They don't respect their audience, and they do lie to their audience. And here, brought to us by Texas Paul on the Midas Touch Network, here is what has happened as a result of that.
We have some amazing news. The bubble has finally broken over at Fox News. And I'm telling you folks, this is really amazing. If you haven't been following what's going on over at Fox, they were sued by a company called Dominion. In that discovery, text messages, the actual words coming out of the talent at Fox News, their own words and thoughts And the executives over at Fox News were turned over to the courts, which made them public record, and we all found out what they really thought. We found out that they were intentionally lying to their, which we knew forever, but the people that watch Fox News were finally seeing out of these people's mouths that they were lying to them. And that when they tried to tell them the truth, their audience got pissed off, and so they started lying to them again. The fallout from that has started to come out. There's a company called Mono Group, and what they...
This was fascinating. And he's got an uninterrupted 90 seconds of fascinating data, and I just want to give the props up front because I'm going to let the man speak.
Do is they help companies, they get with companies' customers, and they find out what those customers are really thinking about the product and the company, and they give the company real information, not what the company tells you. I mean, this is really exactly how people are feeling about them, and that's useful to companies. Well, Mono Group took a look at Fox viewers, and Variety did a wonderful job. Variety magazine, you may have heard of it. They are the media industry standard. They cover movies, they cover news, and they cover whatever the hell Fox is, Fox Entertainment. And they took a look at these numbers and did a really good breakdown on them. And it's just amazing, folks. 21% of Fox viewers no longer trust Fox like they used to. 9% aren't watching Fox like they used to. That is huge. That is a huge crack in that cult bubble. And 13% no longer believe the election was stolen.
Good Lord. Let's just really take this in for a second. New poll on Fox News viewers since the Dominion revelations. 21% have less trust in the network. 9% aren't watching the network as much as they used to. I wonder, and this is just wondering, I wonder if they're watching something else or just not watching the news at all. I hope they're watching something else. 13% no longer believe the election was stolen after reading private text from Fox's stars. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back. We missed you guys. We genuinely did. I mean, we missed maybe not the people being like, oh, I can't make a joke about X or Y anymore. No. That's the Fox talking. We missed having Americans who at least agree on what reality is. And we're fine with disagreeing about how to handle that reality. But the fact that 13% no longer believe the election was stolen after reading the private text from Fox's stars, that is genuinely heartening. And I hope those of you who are returning from the Fox rabbit hole, first of all, I understand how you can fall down it. Second of all, welcome back. Third of all, I hope I sway you into believing that what the folks on the left want to do is the right course of action. But even if I don't, I'm glad. I am glad that we are sharing the same world again. And that the trains are apparently running on time, if that's coming over the microphone.
13% no longer believe the election was stolen. That is amazing. That is amazing news, folks. That is the kind of thing that gives us an opportunity to actually reach in and help foment the end of this cult. We always knew it was going to end. We always knew the cult was going to end. All cults do. The question is how and when. And this opening is, I can't stress it enough, just amazing. It's just amazing. Because if you talk to people that deal with cults, what they'll tell you is, don't talk to people in a cult about the cult, because they just go into defensive mode. But if these cult members themselves start to question, we've been telling people at Fox for years, this is false, that is false, this is false. And what do they tell us? Fake news, fake news. When they start to question themselves, they will start to seek out other information.
One point of contention, just one. This implies, what he just said, it implies that the correct strategy is to wait patiently for the folks in the cult in this case, or the case that he's using, to just wake up themselves and then address them. I disagree with that. He might not have actually meant to imply that, but that's the impression I got when I heard it. So if you got the same impression, I would say no. You have to address him. But he's right. You don't address everything all at once, in essence. And you don't attack the person. You attack the facts. Because you're not going to, if they're believing a different set of facts, they're not going to then accept your worldview. They're not going to be willing to change their own worldview. So, number one, you have to attack the facts. And then number two, you do have to show that you are willing to change your own worldview. That is one of the reasons I am trying to figure out ways I can get lefties to debate me. And the reason why is because if I am not debate me like debate me, coward. No, I mean like a literal old-fashioned debate about what to do about a thing. Because if I debate with lefties, here's something that will inevitably happen. They'll sway me. It's just more likely. I will probably lose a couple of those. And that's healthy. Because it in addition to a whole lot of other positive things, it will demonstrate in a very public manner that at least on this channel, in this chunk of the internet, I'm okay with the changing of with my views. And it will make it easier for somebody else who's wondering, should I change my views? To do that. To see, oh, it's not the end of the world. The sun still rises. So I think it is very important to actively reach out to these folks. To actively push that GD wedge between them and Fox. And the way we do it is by attacking the facts and not the people. There is one other thing. And there is the reason I do occasionally scold the people. The left packaging of niceness goes too far. This is just the old salesman in me talking. If what we say is true from an outsider's perspective, we look like we're lying. Because if what we say is true, we're not acting angry enough. We constantly, like the January 6th committee is a perfect example of this. Who did the absolute best in the beginning, in the early days? It was all the former Republicans, or they were current Republicans. Let me take that back. I apologize. It was the right wingers though. Liz freaking Cheney, of all people, was just killing it. Because they know how to take the safeties off. That's a delicate line to walk. I wouldn't concern yourself with it. But, if somebody uses the N-word around you, you don't say, okay, I got to change this person's mind. Remember, don't offend them. They're in the middle of it. No, you address that toot sweet. You get an apology for that if you got it. No, I mean, you do it as a matter of necessity. But his overall point here of don't scare him off now. Don't use this as a moment to go, ha, 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 ha. Correct. He's right. And it's going to be hard. But I will just say, do attack the facts.
And that is the key, that they are driving this. And our reaction to it, and folks, I really need you to really pay attention to this. Our reaction to it needs to not be dunking on these people. Don't dunk on these people. When they come out of the cult, when your crazy ass uncle comes out of the Fox cult and starts asking questions, if you tell him, oh yeah, I told you those were sorry sons of bitches, this, that, and the other, you're going to drive him right back in. He's going to go into defensive mode, and his self-worth, his self-image, everything will be on the line. He will go right back to the cult because he can't be wrong. Listen. And what you need to interject is a reminder of better times. Before they were in the cult, before they didn't have to simp for Russia, before they didn't, hate most of America, when it didn't bother them when people just went on and did their own thing.
Good man.
That's the kind of thing you need to do with these folks. Folks that professionally take people out of cults will tell you, remind them of better days.
Such a good point. Constantly going back to look, we're not attacking you. We just don't want you to attack us. No one's making you take your kid to a drag queen story hour. But it's real disturbing when I want to take my kid to the public library for any reason, and there's a group of people with guns outside screaming. I don't want to scare my kid. I don't want a trans person to be terrified that a nutty person that watches the same thing you do is going to attack them. Because they believe a bunch of things about the trans person which are just simply not the case. Again, it's not that we're trying to take away your ability to not be trans. We just don't want you to attack others. He's got such a good point. Remembering the good old days. But better times. Like, look, if you want to be a cowboy that drinks beer, smokes a cigar, wears Stetsons and has a hat, cool. I like that there's some Americans that are like that. I like, believe it or not, the aesthetic, just the aesthetic of a pickup truck and a guitar and the things that would probably appeal to somebody in the rural South. The aesthetic I like. I just don't like that these days that person is likely to want everybody else to be just like them. Let me do my thing. You do your thing. And we can like each other from afar if you want.
Better versions of themselves. Don't allow this to turn into an opportunity to basically just own them.
Yeah.
Because if
we don't like owning people on the left. Sorry, I was trying to do a dog whistle there. It was lame. I apologize.
If we try to own them at this point, we'll lose those that are
not for the sentiment. We literally don't like owning people on the left, just for being lame.
Coming out on their own. And we don't want to do that, and this is why. This spreads like an infection amongst the cult. If cult members go out and they start finding good information on their own, they will spread that amongst their own cult. And you will get more questioners and more questioners and more questioners. And that is exactly what we want to happen. We want these people back in reality. We want these people getting real information, not listening to freaks like Marjorie Trader Green and all the other nonsense that they've been exposed to. You know, this gets you your pawpaw back. Take them fishing. Do something fun with them. In the end, it'll be better for the country. This is Old Texas Paul. Love you folks. Y'all have an amazing day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Statistics show about 30%.
Was he saying 30% don't hit the subscribe button? I got to do better. Hey, subscribe if you haven't and you enjoy this. Although full disclosure, Salty Saturday is unusually unproductive. The whole point is just to blow off steam. By the way, if you have a clip that you've been just dying to see your old pal Jake interrupt 30 times, drop it in the comments. I'll have a look. Lawrence St. Laurent says the Marlboro/Reagan aesthetic. Yeah. I love like the James Bond, Indiana Jones aesthetic personally. If we're talking about famous pop culture things. But yeah, that's the aesthetic that I quite like and I quite miss. I miss being able to be like see something like that and not have to be on defense that they're going to say, "Oh, and by the way, I hate fill in something that, you know, will just make me sad." Traditional check to make sure my mic is in fact on. Good, it's still on. Let's look at some of these comments. The anti-corporatist says, haha, good. Although I'm somewhat at a loss as to what to do about the tankies. Oh, Christ, I know. Authoritarians are a problem all of their own. Yeah. I do think the solution for all of it is facts. That's it. We do, for the most part, agree on the things we are willing to say out loud that are good. Nobody wants somebody to sleep in the street. Nobody wants a kid to have to miss a meal because their parents are poor. Just how we make that not an issue anymore. How we solve that problem. That's what I'm looking forward to getting after. And if we simply look at facts, particularly in this era where we can instantly get whole data sets, there's literally a Reddit community just for data sets. I think looking at the facts will help us agree. So even the tankies, if we explain the history of yada, 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 if you can make it entertaining enough to have somebody listen to that, which is fortunately not my job, that's Sam Cedars' job, that will 100% solve the problems, I suspect. Lawrence St. Laurent says there's two things: trying to persuade the person you're debating and trying to persuade those who watch. Two different goals that will require different tactics. Good point. Very good point. The anti-corporatist agrees as well. Ooh. Isla de Thicky Pops says AmeriCorps. Holy yeah, we're going to get that started. I like if you came up with that phrase, awesome. That's a perfect phrase for it. But yeah, the as Lawrence St. Laurent says, the Marlboro Reagan aesthetic is very AmeriCorps. Hard to be anti-corporatist says hard to be anti-capitalist and pro-slavery. Yes, 100%. Anti-corporatist says, hey Jake, you see that hit with Mallory McMorrow the other day? She your representative? She is not my representative, but she is in my state. I have been watching her since 10 months ago, and when PBS NewsHour played that clip where she says we will not let hate win. I'm looking for that clip though, for Mallory McMorrow. I've got tons from a couple months ago. Ooh, was this about 12 days ago, anti-corporatist? What you're talking about? Linked it. Cool. Where the fuck? I'm looking through chat. Mars, while I look, Mars Falcon says, move them leftward, wireless mic. Keep shifting them leftward. More egalitarianism daily. Hell yeah. It was on TYT 4 days ago. Okay, cool. I'm going to work on perhaps a better system for sharing stuff live, certainly. But in the meantime, I'm going to use a good old-fashioned search engine. TYT Mallory McMorrow. Effing Christ. Filters. This week. Might have been TYT investigates. Oh, a huge win for unions in Michigan. Yes, I think this must be it. All right. Let me look through ever so. No, it's not Mallory McMorrow. Shit. Fine. I'm going to play what I think is the clip. I'll tell you, if I'm wrong, at the very least, we're going to see Mallory McMorrow in a jacket that I'm going to attempt to buy for myself. Because, ooh boy, I like it. Downloading. Getting a virus on my computer. And losing all my bank information. Okay, cool. So this is Mallory McMorrow on TYT. We're going to watch it together. And I will comment as things crop up that I think are relevant to us. Here it is.
Some of us in this room can be fired from their jobs simply
we're gonna try
because
it
of
again.
who they are. Some of the people in this room can be denied an apartment or a house, not because of sexual desires or actions, but simply because of who.
Christ. Sounds like she's going off, but I am going to have to restart that. Let's do this. Do the coming back and try it one more time. Nope. One more time.
Some of us in this room can be fired from their jobs simply because of who they are. Some of the people in this room can be denied an apartment or a house, not because of sexual desires or actions, but simply because of who they are. And we have an historic opportunity today to right a wrong that should have been righted decades ago. I will never forget the day that the United States Supreme Court decided on marriage equality. I remember taking pictures of sidewalk chalk. I remember taking pictures of the celebrations that occurred around me. And this was something that didn't impact my life in any way. It didn't make my life any better. It didn't make my life any worse. But I recognized in that moment that finally my friends and my neighbors had the same rights that I've had. I am a straight Catholic woman married to a straight Jewish man. Because of who we are, I cannot be fired from my job. My husband cannot be fired from his job. We cannot be denied a mortgage. We cannot be denied housing. The reality is that most of us in this room today enjoy those same protections. But some of us in this room today do not. Every single one of us in this room has to recognize that granting those around us more rights and more protections does nothing to strip away our own rights and protections.
Oh, hell yeah. All right.
This is an incredibly proud day for the state of Michigan, a state that is signaling to the rest of the country that no matter who you are welcome here. You will be protected here. You can find a job, a career, doing what you love, and a place and a community that you can call home. I'm incredibly proud and grateful to this legislature and my colleague for working on this for so many years.
We're going to let her finish up that in a second. Just love that she's now the majority whip there. Might just have to move to Michigan. Hell yeah, the anti-corporatist. You will be welcome if you do. That said, what happened in Michigan that allowed for this in the first place? That allowed her to be the majority whip? That allowed real legislation to get passed? That is worth a damn. It isn't just performative. It actually accomplishes things. What allowed us to genuinely improve the lives of people in Michigan was the fact that in 2018 the state switched how it draws its districts. We went from a state which allows the legislature, as in the people who those drawn districts affect, we went from that, allowing them to draw the districts, to an independent board consisting of 5 people from each party and 2 people from no particular party. That's simple. Now, to get that done, what activists did, and I'm not saying activists for this cause, I mean for their own causes. What activists did was get propositions on the ballot so that people who wanted to, say, legalize marijuana or secure voting rights, they were going to the polls because they were motivated for that. And that allowed for the longer term change, which was the third proposition on the poll, to be voted in favor of. How we draw our districts, making it fair. There are a ton of states right now that allow their legislatures to draw the districts. That's not a good way to operate. Doesn't matter if you are in the leftist of the left states. It's not a fair way to draw your legislature. To tell you how bad it was in Michigan before that, Democrats got the majority of the votes basically every election. And yet, we're underrepresented, except for, I think, 2004. But we're underrepresented statewide in terms of the number of state senators who were making decisions for people in the state. So in your state, have a look. See how the districts are drawn. I think you'll find if your state tends not to vote the way you like personally, it's probably because your voice is being muffled by bad regulations, poorly set up regulations. Let's let her finish, because this is Mallory freaking McMorrow.
And I'm proud to stand in support of this today. Thank you.
Oh.
Clearly, some of you still want to use one verse in Leviticus.
Southfield. If your father was an attorney, you're familiar with Southfield. It's just it's a well-to-do area, but it's close enough to Detroit that actual business gets done.
To discriminate against LGBTQ people. But if you are truly sincere, a true sincere adherent to Leviticus, and you let it define how you treat other people, let it instead be the verse that Rabbi Akiva, the ancient Jewish scholar and chief of the sages, said was the greatest principle of the Torah. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love thy neighbor as thyself, that it is forbidden to do to others what you would not want done to yourself. Treat others how you'd want to be treated. I studied the Torah in Hebrew school. You're not going to challenge me on the Old Testament. Just the fact that some of you can forget that simple principle, that's what some might call sacrilegious. I urge a no vote, and I request my remarks be printed in the Journal.
Without objection, so ordered.
Good Lord. Let him have it. Yeah, massive fan of Mallory McMorrow. You're going to see better and better legislation coming out of Michigan. We went from being a Republican-run state to a state where every major facet of power is held by a Democrat. Governor, Attorney General, who, by the way, is going after Trump. I bust Dana Nessel's balls. She's our Attorney General. I bust her chops all the time. Let me be absolutely clear here and now. Even though it's Salty Saturday, I'm supposed to be salty. I adore Dana Nessel. I hope she becomes the Attorney General of the whole country. That's how much I like her. I still bust her chops because it's a safe enough state that I can bust the chops of somebody who is well on the left and not have to worry about it. We have the Secretary of State. We got the State House. We got the State Senate. On and on and on and on. There's no magic to it. It's just that the legislature the districts are drawn fairly. That's all. That and of course, as with everybody, now people care about politics because 2008, 2016, we've had some major issues happen that make it clear that you got to pay attention to politics. The anti-corporatist says, man, it's crazy that I can name all of them. Let me go up. So there's context. All right. The anti-corporatist says, I'm actually kind of leaning towards our confused Republican brethren need our help. I know. If like me, you have trouble setting down the fire, though, you know, the anger at injustice, just remember, at least something I find is very helpful. These folks that we interact with a lot, this is more like when you yell at or when you're interacting with the employee whose job it is to enforce a corporate policy. They're there. They serve the same function, by and large. But the actual enemy is the person who told him to do the thing. Reminds me of when Jank busts out the pro-abortion part of the Book of Numbers. Yeah. Man, it's crazy that I can name all of them. He says, says the anti-corporatist. Lauren St. Laurent says, Jared Moskowitz is another great new Dem. Ooh, Jared Moskowitz. Okay, I'll have a gander. Thank you for helping me out. That you're referring to all of the Michigan office holders. Yeah, because they are getting things done that are of significance. And more Michigan is turning up in national news because of stuff like this. I will also say this. Gretchen Whitmer was very much a centrist. But you see how far left she has been pushed on a bunch of stuff. If you're one of those folks who's looking at Joe Biden, for example, and you're thinking, God, this guy's such a frickin', yada, 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 corporate, whatever. Just remember, one, you're probably correct. And two, even if you are correct, it's easier to push someone to the left within the Democrats than it is to push somebody whose party's base is theoretically way on the other side to the left. Flint is one of over 3,000 U.S. cities with unsafe water. You are 100% correct. That happened under Governor Rick Snyder. And because of that and the absolute national embarrassment it was, because of the tragedy that a lot of people in this state are still suffering, just about everybody knows somebody that lives in the Flint area to some degree. Because of that, Michigan had sort of a head start on getting politically active, and it's just made it very easy to use it as an example. Not because it's doing something necessarily different than a lot of other states are doing. It's just got a 2 or 3 years head start on these. Like the infrastructure is there because there was literally groups that were being formed to talk about Flint. And by the way, we came this close to getting Governor Snyder charged for that. Former Governor Snyder. The anti-corporatist says, I'm glad that you hate trans, but what have you done to fight the corporate price gouging and inflation? That is the way to do it. Exactly. Just refocus these folks. It can only work well. And then Lauren St. Laurent says, don't forget that the right has worked 50 years to get to the current situation, starting with the Lewis Powell memo. I'm going to try saying that like a normal person. Starting with the Lewis Powell memo to the Chamber of Commerce. Good point. Catherine Wolf says, this is a really smart group of folks here. Totally. Y'all are razor sharp, and I love it. All right. Salty Saturday. I'm going to do one more thing. I want to be salty about all 4 major factions in U.S. politics. What are the 4 factions I'm talking about? Well, he says as he takes time adjusting. These 4 right chom. MAGA, progressives, GOP, and corporate Democrats. I'm going to say something salty about all these groups, purely to get it off my chest, like Festivus. That's what Salty Saturday is. It's Festivus. It's just the petty airing of grievances. MAGA, Jesus Christ. Why? Why are you listening to people who are hurting you? It's all off the dome. I haven't prepared these comments. It's killing me, man. Every single time, MAGA. Every single time you get riled up, it is about something that was done by the person riling you up. And then they go send you off after people that are trying to help you. It's so self-destructive. And it makes me crazy. I look like I got drool constantly, like frickin' Rick from the cartoon on my lip. That's not drool. That's my hair going white because it stresses me out. Get your shit together. The GOP. All right. You motherfuckers are smart enough to know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. You are the people that are okay with signing checks for yourself now and pulling that cash from the next generation. That's your deal, GOP. You suck because of that. And you know you suck, and you don't even bother talking to the progressives because you know we see you. You are the actual source of the cancer in America. That dude right there, that's just a tumor that happened because the cancer metastasized. That's it. But this is where it's come from. Jesus, this is where it's coming from. And I think you know that. And you're going to have a come to Jesus moment. Corporate Democrats, motherfuckers, you want to know how that cancer got bad? It's because you're the cigarettes. You're supposed to be the dudes fighting for the little guys. You're out here getting all right, I'm going to try not to get demonetized. You're out here filleting corporations as though they're not the villains. We make fun of the GOP and MAGA for talking about Martin Luther King all the time. Motherfuckers, y'all are no different. Y'all are no different. Martin Luther King was talking about how the real source of our conflict is economic, and you refuse to deal with that. Why? Because you think Milton Friedman is neat. Because you think, yeah, I like neoliberalism. That allows me to be rich and think that I'm helping people. Because if we define everything by making money equals righteous, if we make everything, every single thing, about how we can best help an already rich corporation become more rich, you think that's justifying being wealthy. Go yourself. First of all, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy. Nothing at all. But if you're a politician with a fixed public paycheck and you're not supposed to be a rich person, but somehow being a politician keeps making you rich, y'all, that's a problem. Corporate Democrats, you will eventually be the opposition. Progressives, oh, I've been waiting to tear into these motherfuckers for a while. Let me make sure I have on screen the exact dumb son of a bitch I'm talking about. I'm going to put him in the center of the screen right here. There he is, that dumb bastard. Look. Nobody will disagree with the idea that the absolute worst enemy of the progressives is the progressives. You can't go 5 minutes without eating each other alive. The whole world, good news, you are the only people that are genuinely trying to fight for the greater good. Bad news, the whole world knows that you are going to fight each other just as hard as you're going to fight everybody else. Oh, it's maddening to watch Superman's job being done by the Gilmore Girls. Progressives. All right, I let myself have it as well. We all deserve it. But hey, that was about as salty as it gets. That was about as salty as these here fries from Burger King. But since we've been hanging out for a while, and oh, look at that. Well, it's about to be Sunday. Let me tell you a little secret about fries in general and saltiness in general. Everybody, when they get the fries, most folks at least, in the United States, they use ketchup. Now that's fine. The tang goes well, certainly, with salt. I'll tell you a little secret. Dip it in a little bit of honey. The honey is very, very sweet, and it blends with that saltiness in a way it's delicious. We're going to go on right now into a new kind of show. I'm not going to do the whole show. I'm just going to give you a little taste. A little taste of the fries with a little honey. It's going to be a sweet Sunday, something like that. I am now going to say something nice, very intentionally, and I'm going to mean it about every single group that I just insulted. Progressives, you are indeed out there fighting the good fight, and I'll get back to you in a moment because I have a feeling that's most of the people watching right now. Oh, fuck it. Let's just work our way back. Progressives, you're out there fighting the good fight. You genuinely care about people. You genuinely, I think, are going to be the leaders of the future. Because the stuff you're fighting for now will become standard policy down the line. And you'll be the experts in it. So you should feel good. And I hope you're not getting tired. Because we need you. And I'm sorry that it is such a popular team that it is a diverse team and therefore there are diverse opinions. But the good news is, the reason for that is that it's popular. And if we learn to puppy fight, so we're not drawing blood, I think we're going to find a very nice balance. Corporate Democrats, look, I do think that the corporations are a problem. But I can't deny we had to fight for the rights of gay people and black people and trans people and just people. We had to fight for people's rights within an increasingly capitalist system with runaway capitalism. Let me give you the credit you deserve. You harnessed that to fund left votes. It can't be denied. Even if I don't like it, even if I don't agree with the strategy, it can't be denied that it is a fact that at some point the NRA helped fund the legalization of gay marriage. Because some of the folks that voted for that took NRA funding. Corporate Democrats, look, you found a way. It's not a way I agree with, but I can respect the game. And I do think you're going to be the opposition. I do think you're going to be the new right wing. But when that happens, I will be delighted. I'll be delighted to have you as a respected opponent. GOP. Look, I don't believe the same things you believe, fundamentally. I'm talking to the Mitch McConnells of the world. But there is such a thing as decorum, and I don't deny that you are believers in law. I disagree with most of the things you do. I disagree with most of the laws that you want to make. But you make them laws before you do them. There's something honorable there. And I would recommend to you, to the old-fashioned conservatives that genuinely believe in conservatism literally being slow to change, I would recommend you join the Democrats because you guys are very closely aligned. And you could simply be a more powerful voting bloc if you did that. I'll go further. I do see an organizing principle here. Not one that it's not one that I agree with. But there is something to be said for the fact that there is definitely an ideology. There is a conservative ideology. And I think I can work with that. I can try to sway. I might even be a little bit swayed. And if you're looking at the broad strokes of what being conservative is supposed to be traditionally, it is simply a hesitance to change. And a long way down the line, I personally think, we will need people like that. At one point, we will change enough that there will be a legitimate case to be made for being hesitant to change again. I don't think the ideology has to die. But I do think it has become poisoned by our current political system. And I invite you to work with me to change that. MAGA. Listen. The way I see is like if we're all dogs here, if all of us are dogs, you're a bloodhound. You got a real good nose for sniffing out the bad guys. But your eyesight ain't so good. This is a compliment, MAGA. I believe those people who were in MAGA or are in MAGA, they can smell the corruption. And I think that's worthy of a compliment. The Tea Partiers, no different. Same general principle. The understanding that something was wrong, fundamentally. And the chutzpah to do something drastic to change it. I don't agree with what you want to do. I don't agree with the methods you want to use to accomplish it a lot of the time. That doesn't mean I don't respect both the ability and the will to do something. Hell yeah. Good on you for that. But now I would recommend you work on precision. I'm going to work on being a pointer dog. You say you don't like the rich bullying you, taking away your rights. You say you don't want to be a tool of a ultra wealthy foreign person. Okay, fair enough. Who cares if they're for it? You don't want to be the tool of somebody else, particularly somebody who's already made their fortune. Fair enough. I will try to point you in the direction of of the fox we're after. My hope with upcoming streams, in addition to doing our regular shtick, Monday to Friday and random streams in between, my hope is that this can become a place where we organize together. This group, I hope, is the first of many, and I think this group in particular is a fantastic one. I enjoy very much coming out here and reading you guys the news and telling you what you can do about it. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope you've been able to unwind a little bit. If you enjoyed the stream, I do recommend subscribing because I do it all the time, and I would very much appreciate a like so that you could tell YouTube that it's good content and other folks should see it. I'm going to go chill out and watch some more redundant clips about the most recent news because I've been having a blast. I will see you guys next time. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.